Sikemi watched from the dining room with clenched fists as Giselle and Tony hugged and French kissed right in front of her. Her heart pounded loudly against her chest, her breath almost leaving her completely as she waited impatiently for Giselle to leave. Giselle was supposed to be on her way to the airport for a conference in Seattle, but here she was, clinging and holding on to Tony like she had no intention of letting go. So shameless, Sikemi muttered under her breath. At last, Giselle pulled away from Tony and they walked hand in hand out of the living room. Sikemi watched through the window as Giselle got into the car and drove off. This was it. She was going to make sure she did everything to ruin Tony's marriage to Giselle. He was taking too long to divorce her, so she was ready to take matters into her hands. Yes, she couldn't stand being broke and stranded, but what she couldn't stand more was Giselle's clinginess to Tony and her condescending attitudes towards her. As soon as Tony walked back into the living room, Sikemi rushed straight into his arms. "I've really missed you, my darling. Do you know how hard it has been for me all this while?" she said, stroking his chest suggestively. Her plan was to take advantage of Giselle's absence, lure Tony to bed, well, that wouldn't be difficult at all, and get pregnant by him. Once she takes in, Giselle wouldn't hesitate to kick him to the curb. This was the only sure way to hasten their separation. Tony, tickled by her touch, smiled seductively at Sikemi. "Remember I told you we're going to have all the time to ourselves once she's gone, right? Okay, how about you go take a shower first? I'll wait for you in the bedroom. We have a whole day to celebrate together," he said, gesturing towards the bathroom. Sikemi headed for the bathroom while Tony grabbed his favorite bottle of cognac, which he drinks from time to time. Sikemi gave herself a good scrub in the bathtub, like she wanted to get rid of all the bad memories and experiences she has ever had ever since she got to the US. She stepped out wearing Giselle's robe, which hung on the bathroom door. As soon as she stepped into the bedroom where Tony was supposed to be waiting for her, she met a frightening sight. Standing face to face with her was Giselle, staring her dead in the eyes with a menacing smirk on her face. "I knew it. I knew you wouldn't wait a second to try to take my man and my place while I'm out of here. It's one thing to try to seduce my man, but wearing my robes? Bitch, who do you think you are?" she asked in a calm but dangerous tone. Sikemi thought she was going to faint in that moment. Her head spinned and felt woozy. This has to be a bad dream. When and how did Giselle appear back into the house? She had driven off a while ago. Even if she came back because she forgot something, no one heard her car approaching or the door opening from outside. Sikemi had always thought Giselle to be the wicked witch of the West. Now it was obvious she must truly possess diabolical powers. Sikemi turned towards the direction of the bed. Tony was sleeping soundly, unaware of what was happening. The bottle of cognac and the half-filled glass were close to the lampstand at the side of the bed. "What? Cat cut your tongue? You and Tony think I'm dumb, right? You think I wouldn't make my research about who comes into my house? You had the nerve to come in here masquerading as a maid. What do you think this is? Some sort of harbor for illegal immigrants?" Giselle barked this time. Before Sikemi could find the words to say, Giselle launched her fist at her. Sikemi, stunned, fell on the bed where Tony lay. She screamed out his name, trying to get his attention. For the first time, she found herself truly frightened by Giselle. The look on her face made her appearance somewhat ghouly. "Oh, save your breath. He won't wake up until the next, let's say, 30 minutes. That gives me enough time to beat the shit out of you." With that, Giselle grabbed Sikemi from the bed and roughly tossed her across the bedroom. Sikemi fell hard on the floor, bruising her arms and legs. "You know, I actually didn't plan to lay my precious hands on your field body. All you had to do was get knocked out by the drink like Tony before the cops get here to drag you out. But I guess cognac is too sophisticated for you, isn't it?" she continued. Sikemi winced in pain. She began to wonder how long Giselle knew about she and Tony. To think she carefully planned all this and her trip was only a ruse. Tony still lay asleep peacefully on the bed. What kind of sedative did Giselle lace his drink with? Sikemi's thoughts were interrupted when she felt Giselle sit on her body, throwing punches all over her face. Shikemi screamed for help, but no one else seemed to hear her. Come on, Shikemi, you are an African. How can you allow this old haggard Oyibo Pepe pound you like yam? Show her what stuff you are made of, a voice in her head yelled. As if possessed suddenly by a demon, Shikemi mustered all her strength and pushed Giselle off her. In a few seconds, she was the one on top of her, throwing punches and curses. Giselle shrieked like a white witch being set on fire. Suddenly, Shikemi felt her body react to an electrifying sound. She fell on the floor incapacitated, watching a policeman stare at her menacingly with a taser in his hand, while his other colleagues rushed to Giselle's aid. She remained on the floor, unable to speak or move, watching the policemen move around the house, searching every nook and cranny. By the time she came to herself, she was already handcuffed in the police van on her way to the station. Shikemi felt like she was trapped in a nightmare. One moment she is in the US, struggling to survive Giselle and thinking of ways to have Tony alter herself. The next minute she's being deported back to Nigeria. After being arrested based on her attack on Giselle and a false allegation of drug possession, she wished she had actually been more brutal in her attack on Giselle. At least disfigure the witch's face before being bundled off by the police. That would have been a sense of victory for her. Upon arrival back at her home country, Shikemi was thrown in jail. Tears of pain, regret and guilt flowed from her eyes at the passing of each day. She thought of Tony, wondering if he suffered the same fate as her after regaining consciousness. Or maybe Giselle decided to forgive him after seeing that her rival was now out of the picture. She cursed at Tony and Giselle day by day. Sometimes she would be so loud that her cellmates would think she was losing it. She wished she had stayed with Mofe. Though her life would not be so comfortable, it would definitely have been much more better. Oh, the sore and scars that come with greed. After spending 2 years in jail, Shikemi was finally released on grounds that by some miracle she was on the federal government's pardon list. Like the prodigal son, she found her way back to Mofe's house, hoping to still find him there. As soon as she stepped into the compound, she saw Mofe and some men putting some furniture, luggages and other household belongings onto a truck. He looked even more handsome, fresher and healthier than before. Life must have been so kind to him in her absence. Indeed, life was kind to Mofe. Through hard work and kindness, a customer of his who happened to be cousins with the state governor had linked him up. The governor was in need of new furniture for his office and decided to patronize local furniture makers in order to cut costs and to encourage young skilled people. Mofe designed the furniture so well people thought they were imported. The governor was so pleased he paid Mofe 3 times the agreed price. Mofe's luck took a turn for the better after that, as other politicians and big business magnates started giving him contracts. He became so rich he was able to purchase a land to expand his business and a house of his own. He was moving out of the apartment he once shared with Shikemi when she walked into the compound. When Mofe saw her, the smile on his face vanished. It seemed like he had just come face to face with a ghost. Could that be Shikemi? He thought to himself. What on earth happened to her? Shikemi fell on her knees, weeping profusely and begging. Mofe took her into the almost empty house and listened to her audio. He indeed felt so sorry for her, but knew he had no intentions of taking her back. What Shikemi did to him broke and almost destroyed him, and although he had forgiven her, he could never forget. He handed out some money, advising her to start life afresh, and left for his new apartment. Shikemi couldn't believe that a day would come when Mofe would look at her with no ounce of affection at all. She had thought he was going to be more than glad to have her back, especially after she had claimed Tony used black magic in seducing and brainwashing her. But no, the Mofe she knew before wasn't the same Mofe she met this time. Unskilled and clueless about the business to start, Shikemi roamed around the streets for days. Her mental health started deteriorating and depression became her daily companion. An old neighbor of hers and Mofe saw her roaming the streets one day in worn-out clothes and contacted Mofe. Mofe then went all the way to Ajeromi, pleaded on his knees with Shikemi's parents until they agreed to take her back in and nurse her to sanity. They had initially been so mad at her that they declared openly to the whole of Ajurumi that she was no longer their daughter. But for the sake of Mofe, they obliged and took her back. And so Sikemi's life was back to square one. In no time, she was back to Ajurumi, receiving treatment from Baba Akpeno, the local psychiatrist of Ajurumi. Her story spread wide all through the village. Many people felt sorry for her. Others mocked and berated her. As for Mofe, he was back to his life in the city, adjusting well to his new status. He was never carried away by it, never arrogant or rude to people, but ever loving, ever kind, and ever selfless. He was able to see all his siblings through school and help set up a business for his immediate younger brother. He maintained his close friendship with Jadesola and Odera. They became a jolly good trio, always having a nice time together and impacting one another positively. Hopefully he finds love again someday, and this time with someone who is worth it. Sikemi's mental health deteriorated the more despite all Baba Akpeno's efforts. People began to whisper that it was not ordinary. They said that Mofe's Eleda or the spirit of his late parents are the ones fighting for him, torturing Sikemi mentally. This saddened and embarrassed her parents even more. Most times Sikemi would wander around the village in rags or almost unclad to familiar spots like Mofe's former carpentry workshop, the village joint, and the riverside. Inhabitants of Ajurumi now had new names for her. Sikemi Asimi, Iyawere, Omo Oniwakuwa. But to some who still had a little respect for her for the sake of Mofe, she remained Aya Mofe, the carpenter's wife.